Good morning. We're just getting started. Welcome. I think we're going to have Mr. Super High join us today. And all right, we are live. We are live everywhere. And so for another wonderful Sunday, thank you everyone for taking the time to check out this Matters video. We're here with Cosmic Matters. I am Matt Washington of Cosmic Matters. And as always, as I say, I created the This Matters and Cosmic Matters video series to bring you a different perspective on the world that we live in. And by doing so, I hope to just entertain your brain for a little while on a Sunday and contemplate something that we may not have spent too much time contemplating before. So it's really interesting how I come up with the topics each week. I usually just put on my YouTube, let the algorithm flow. I post up, hey, good morning, Worm. By the way, just so everyone knows, we are live on YouTube at Philosophy Man 76. We're live on TikTok under Philosophy Man 76, and we are live on Stereo, the Stereo app, my home of podcasting where I began. So, and we already got a message. If you want to leave a message, you can leave it through the Stereo app, but we already have one. Let's play it real quick.
Oh, thank God, Maddie. Stereo is erupting in, well, Stereo's just being Stereo, to be honest. But it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Good morning. And looking forward to it.
Good morning, Worm. Yes, and I do this. It's very rare. I come sometimes. Very rare I jump on Stereo anymore. I do like to. I love the app because it's where I kind of met one of my best friends, and it's where I kind of got started doing shows and whatnot. It used to be the old days of Stereo. It used to be crazy and great, and there was a lot of wonderful personalities and people back in the day during COVID times. I don't know. Can I say COVID now? Are we allowed to say that on the lives without getting? Anyway, whatever. The time of the pandemic, but yeah, now we've all crawled out of our homes. Stereo has turned, there's not as many people on Stereo, not as many diverse topics, which is one of the reasons I do this show on Sunday, to kind of give people something else to talk about, something else to think about, and also why I do this in general, because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking about this stuff and talking about philosophy and talking about space and seeing the convergence of the two, even though today's talk is about emergence. And so I was watching it's really funny how so right now it's snowing. Actually, I'll probably say this when Mr. Super High Man joins us. But I was out, it's snowing where I am. It's snowing pretty hard. We had about 5 or 6 inches of snow, and it's still snowing. And I decided to get up and go and shovel early. And I remember one of the way I discovered, I didn't discover Alan Watts, but the first time I really listened to like a long Alan Watts talk, or at least the first time I remember, I was out shoveling my driveway, and it was an Alan Watts talk about, he was talking about like the green room. He's like, it was a whole thing about how where plays people put on the human persona, and the idea that a persona is a mask. And if I remember correctly, and again, this was years ago, so I'm going to probably butcher this a little bit. I'll probably have to try to go find that audio or the video again. But he was talking about how the persona was the mask was designed for a way to project, because back in the day they didn't have microphones and speakers and whatnot. And so when they had plays, they would wear these masks that, would amplify their voices. And the idea of the play is that people would go to the play and they would lose themselves. Like the play is not exciting if you try to find the reality of the play, right? And the really great actors, right, are the ones who lose themselves, almost forget, why do we always hear the stories of what was his name? Who played the Joker? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm going to remember in a second. I could see his face. He passed away. and I'll remember it soon. So, but anyway, everyone knows what I'm talking about. In The Dark Knight, the gentleman who played Joker did an amazing performance, and I feel bad that I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. So, I got the message. Heath Ledger, thank you, Worm. And that was going to bother me. So, Heath Ledger. But everyone has heard, or if you've seen the movie, or I always assume everyone's heard, but the whole point is that he really got lost in that role. Like, he became, in his mind, the Joker. Like, he was the Joker on set, he was the Joker off set. I actually it's so funny, it's so weird. Maybe that's probably why I brought it up. I just saw a video that I'd never seen before of the costume or the makeup person who did the makeup for the Joker in that movie, and he has never seen the movie because he was so upset at the fact that he would do the makeup. He's like, the makeup wasn't supposed to look like that. He's like, I did the perfect lips, and I evenly did all of the white the white masking and the eyeshadow. He's like, I did everything and made it look great. And by the time they would start shooting, it would be all messed up like that. And Heath Ledger did that himself. and so he's like, he's like, I know the movie brings a lot of people enjoyment, but I refuse to see the movie because he messed up my makeup. Right. So thought that was interesting. So we have some Julie with the eye patch. I don't have the eye patch today. For those who can't see me on stereo, the eye patch is missing for today. I finally am able to see out of my right eye again. But as far as there was a point I was getting to. Yeah. So he loses himself in the performance, right? And he forgets what's going on. And therefore, wow, I'm retracing in my head the 6 tangents I'm already on. But he loses himself in that. And the audience, they lose themselves in the performance, and the actors who lose themselves. So everyone is forgetting. Everyone is pretending at a very high level, even though and that makes it enjoyable. Like, the best movies are where you forget. I know when I see movie critics, they're like, oh, this took me out of the movie, right? Or this happened, and it takes you, or if you see something of the, anything that takes you out of the illusion ruins it, makes it bad, right? And so this Alan Watts talk was talking about how, the real you is in the green room, right? The real you is behind the mask, and we are all a part of the play, whether we're watching, whether we're in the audience, or whether we're the actors on the stage and the actresses on the stage, and we all wear the mask, forgetting who we really are to enjoy the show. And this is kind of leading to the point of today's talk, which is emergence, where it's like, where do the concepts that we have, and I was almost going to play the prickles and goo thing today, but the concepts that we have that come out of the, how do I put it? Trying to think of the best way to put this. So the particles, the atoms, the things that we see, like I think of emergence as when you see one of those mosaics and you see a picture and you just see like, and then when you're real close in, maybe I just saw one with a bunch of pennies, right? And it's just a bunch of pennies. But then as you pull away and you get further and further back, you see that the pennies create a picture of like a ship or something based upon their discoloration and where they're placed and whatnot. So as you pull away, you see a ship. The ship is the ship the real thing, or are the small pennies, each penny, the real thing? Well, again, it depends on your level of magnification. But the ship is what the emergence is. It comes out of it's the accumulation of all the little pennies, right? And so when we think of ourselves, we are an accumulation of all these 3 trillion cells in our body. And not only it's funny as I say these things, I say the 3 trillion cells in our body, but then the trillions of cells in our body are constantly in play with the universe, and so we are fully a part of the entire mosaic, which is the entire universe itself. But we'll stick for today. We'll just talk about we'll stick with some forms, right? And so that concept of emerging, something coming out of a new property coming out of the tiny or the minuscule, right? Many things coming together to make something new, right? And I always start this argument with my nieces and nephews, well, mostly my nephews, because they love arguing. But we talk about this all the time, almost every holiday, as I bring up the concept of wetness, right? And I always say, if you are submerged, if somebody is submerged under the water fully, are they actually wet, right? Because when you're swimming around in the pool underneath the water, you don't feel wet. You're moving throughout the water, but you don't feel wet unless you get out of the water, all right? And then now you have wet. And we always have we have this. I said, well, what if you don't break the surface as you jump in the water and you don't break the surface? Are you wet then? What exactly is wet? How many molecules does it take to be wet? If you have one water molecule on you, are you wet? Or the concepts of wetness coming out. All right, so Soup will be joining us in a minute. So I just like stirring that conversation up, because then they start going crazy and they start arguing about these types of things. Oh, okay. Soup's gonna come in a little bit. All right, so we have another message from Worm. Let's see. Let's play the message.
Speaking of personas and masks, there's a quote from Oscar Wilde that I love, and I believe is true. Maybe not in all instances, but the quote is, "Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask, and he will tell you the truth." So I think that's very deep, because it's what happens here on Stereo and other places around the internet. People don't feel comfortable speaking in their own person, so they need the mask to blame it on, basically, or to help them exercise those authentic thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's so many layers to that, because the idea of the persona of you being not real, being an actor, right? Let's not say you're real, but you yourself being the universe forgetting who it is, right? So when somebody says, like, I've heard people say, I used to have this discussion with people where someone said they should just be themselves. Like, they're being fake, they're being themselves. They're not being themselves. I'm like, how could you be anything but yourself? That's pretty impossible. Now you can say, well, yeah, but they're acting like so and so, they're impersonating they're copying someone's style. Okay, well, that's who they are. They're the type of person who copies someone else's style. they are the one who pretends to be somebody else. That's the. So if they stopped doing that, then they would then truly not be being themselves, because to be themselves would be to copy somebody else, right? So but then you would say, well, I'm being myself. Then are you then faking? Are you then not a real person? And the deeper layer to that is, you aren't yourself anyway. You are a manifestation of the universe, and learning about itself. And it's so funny. I was, as I was shoveling today, listening to Alan Watts. And it's a shame. I shouldn't shovel. I shouldn't listen to Alan right before the show, because then I always want to change my show and do something else, whatever it was I was listening to at that particular moment. But he said something profound, and I'm trying to remember. I don't want to butcher it, because I always butcher anything Alan says. But the concept of the universe, like you forgetting who you are, but it's necessary that the universe forgets, because then it renews it. You can't learn unless you forget. You can't discover if you already know. This is always my challenge with people who were religious, who said, well, I know, like, we know, we're trying to search for the truth. I go, well, how can you search for the truth if you already feel that you know the truth? Like you can't be truth seeking and knowing at the same time. So the concept that the universe creates us as a being to forget so that it can then learn again, makes it fun. And the emergence, I want to try to stay on track, is the fact that all these things are coming together to create something else. And we talked about last week, the last 2 weeks, we talked about what is true, what is real, and what is true. And it's like, it depends on your level of magnification. And, in my body, I'm trying to remember the numbers. You think eventually I would just remember these things because I bring it up so often. I say the same all the time. But in the human body, I'm pretty sure it's only about 54% of the cells in the human body have human DNA. Actually, it's less than that. It's 47%. It's the opposite. How many? And as I just went through, by the way, how many cells are in the human body? Let's figure that out first. Oh yeah, I was a couple trillion off. So the human body contains anywhere between 30 to 40 trillion cells. Which is crazy to think about. And how many cells in the human body are or have human DNA? Sorry, I'm trying to type with one hand. Why didn't it tell me? It didn't, just gave me the same exact answer. All right, well, whatever. I know there's less. So the point being is there's a lot of so I just went through a fast. I just did a 3-day fast that I ended yesterday. And as far as the fast goes, one of the things I was watching and learning about was the what ends up happening after, I think it's like 24 hours or so of you not eating, that it starts to change the biome in your gut, right? Because your gut has a whole bunch of, there's actually in some Eastern philosophies, we center ourselves in the Western culture. We center ourselves in our head. We see ourselves in our head. But in a lot of Eastern cultures, they center themselves in their stomach. That's where they say, like, I am. That's where they are. And it's interesting because the number of bacteria and the biome that in your gut is so many more cells that and they just, it's almost like the human body is a transport for those cells to survive. Like they use you almost like those, what was it, the zombie, there's a kind of parasite called a zombie parasite. I think it grows either in spiders or grasshoppers or ants. Actually, it was in ants, right? And so that these microbes, cause you to be hungry, cause you to, and to feed them, right? So you go, oh man, and what really are we doing here on this planet other than trying to reproduce and find food and shelter and stay alive? And it's like, well, just to feed these cells in our gut, and they're just like, all right, well, let's reproduce and make more virus cells or bacteria cells. And so maybe they're just moving us around giving us all these ideas, all this evolution to become smarter so we can get food easier, right? Which they've succeeded, right? We've gotten to the age of having food abundance, right? We've diseases. I'm diabetic. I'm type 2 diabetic now because I eat too much. I fed the wrong bacteria in my gut. All right. So, and then when they make your hunger cells, they make hormones to make your body, want to do these things. So anyway, so the point being is I did this 3-day cleanse, and it was supposed to be what happens after a certain amount of hours during the fast that all of a sudden that it changes the biome of your gut, like the better bacteria, do better, and the ones that eat sugar and eat the things that destroy your gut, become less, and changes your biome, and it changes your mood, and it changes everything. So really, who am I if I'm not, maybe I'm just being controlled like the little guy in like the guy in Men in Black, where there's the alien inside of him, right? It's just controlling him around and moving around and stuff. So again, the point of what I'm trying to say is what we see, the emergence of the things that we see are they real or are they not? When we see wetness coming from water, what is that? When we see us coming from ourselves, coming from atoms, coming from these things that are conglomerate, individually, they don't make sense, but when they are combined, they turn into something else. They make new things. And so on different levels. And so again, we talk about how we are a part of the universe, and therefore important and the same as the universe, but also meaning that you are important. You are one of the, if you take one of the pennies out of the mosaic, yeah, you could still see the mosaic, but you would see that one penny missing would make it look weird. It would almost ruin the illusion for you. And so just as we look at the universe, and we've talked about on this show many times about how big the universe is, the size, and how mind bending the universe is, it sometimes makes you feel insignificant, right? Because you're like, compared to the universe, we're nothing. I just watched a video about binary stars, and how like some of the stars that we see in the sky are not actually one star, but there's sometimes two, sometimes three, sometimes four. There's actually one star in one constellation. It's like 9 stars together. And so and when you think of those stars, like how big those are compared to the sun, compared to the earth, compared to like who we are, we feel insignificant, but we're not. We're necessary. Every little piece of us is necessary, and every single piece of us is came from those stars, came from everything else in the universe. All right. So anyway, I'm chatting along. I'm going to play the video in a minute. I'm trying to wait for Soup. He's taking a test. But we'll play messages while we're waiting here. Or worm again.
So just following on this, and hopefully I'm not derailing what you're talking about.
There's no derailing. I'm always derailing.
In a sense, because we're a species with amnesia, we're constantly trying to determine who we are versus who others are, or what is not us, right? Like the universe, even though, like as you pointed out, we're all one. We're all from the same oneness. But maybe that's the reason why we are eternally having to rehash and reestablish our identities, because it's an illusion. Self is an illusion. Extremely deep.
So yeah, and the thing is that not even so learning, and this is one of the things that I used to get very frustrated with people until I found it's like, why don't they understand this, or why are they so hard-headed towards this particular idea? And so I watched the left versus right fighting in America, and I'm not even, it doesn't even upset me anymore. Like it used to upset me. I used to be like, what are you doing? Like you understand that the fighting is like, everyone wants the same thing. The people on the left and the people on the right both want the same thing. They just are coming about it in different ways because they're coming from different perspectives, right? Everybody wants, to live happy. Everybody wants their family to be safe. Everybody wants people to prosper. They just have different opinions on how to get there, right? And the thing is, they need each other. They're two sides of the coin, right? The coin is the same, but you wouldn't know what left is unless there was a right, right? Like we would just we wouldn't understand what it meant. And some people identify themselves so much with their ideas and their ideology. I'm a Christian. I'm a liberal. I'm a MAGA. I'm a Trump supporter. Whatever they identify themselves with, they take that on so strongly and that's why they fight for it, and that's why it's almost impossible to change their mind. But the idea, when I see these things going on, now that I have this kind of worldview, I don't see it as this person is bad. I just see it as, I just look at that person and go, that's the universe. That's me playing the role of what would it be like to be somebody who feels that way, who feels that strongly about that particular subject, right? And for me, we're playing the game of human, so I don't want those people to, I don't, as long as it doesn't affect me as far as like me being able to hurt my happiness, right? Stop me from moving around and interacting in a way that I want to interact with the world. I just look at those. I don't get upset at the people anymore. I just see them as, Elon. Alan says, "I see you, Shiva." Right? That's what he says all the time. He's like, "I see you, Shiva. You're playing the game," and you see those people. Like, I can't know how I feel unless I see how others feel. Right? We need that dichotomy. We need that separatism to see, like, I feel stronger about my beliefs and I understand what I believe because I see someone on the opposite, right? I'm constantly testing my beliefs and my thought processes. And the same thought process I had today are not the same that I had, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And I want to test them. And some people, but the thing is, some people don't. Some people, I have I got in not an argument, I guess. I don't know. Someone sent me a video, and it was like someone on the one of those videos of like the man on the street, and the guy was going around. And he just asked. They just had clips of him asking, like, several women, would you want to live on Earth if men disappeared, right? And it was again, tangent coming up. Get ready for it. And it was literally simply like 7 or 8 women in a row going, "Yeah, no problem. Sign me up. How can I go? I'll go tomorrow." Right. And then it was the same question asked to a bunch of men. Would you want to live on Earth without any women? If women disappeared? And it was like, every single was like, hell no. Right. Like, no way. I don't want that. Right. And so it was a friend, well, it was an ex-girlfriend who sent me the video. And I wrote back to her. I'm like, do you understand? We basically, if men all went away tomorrow, the world would fall apart for women in less than a month. All the construction, all the electricity. I was like, there's only 1 million women who do construction. There's 12 million men. There's only, it's like 1 out of 50 women are plumbers. Only 1 out of 25 women are electricians. And she's like, well, women can do just what men can do. And I said, well, yes and no. I said yes, in that they could be. I didn't say there's no women that can't be plumbers, but they're just not. They just choose not to. And they're not all going to learn in the next month how to. Are you going to jump into being a plumber or a construction worker, or mining coal, or making energy, or doing all these things? And then I also said, there are a lot of things that men can do that women can't do, and there's a lot of things that women can do that men can't do. And she's like, name one. I sent her a list of 180 world records that men have in track and field and sports and this and that women can't do. Like, I'm like, it's just very simple. So, and I'm just being real. But so the point of the argument is whether I'm right or not about the argument. The point is, she finally was just like, I don't want to have this. I don't want to. This is not an argument I want to have. And I got more things to do, better things to do. And I don't understand. I don't even know what the point of me going into that was. I think this was probably on my mind. All right, we got more messages coming in. I'm all the way off track, as usual. I think everyone comes here to hear me verbally vomit on the microphone.
about some fascinating shit now. And once again, hope I'm not derailing.
Not derailing at all.
Being too tangential, but you're talking about cells, and you're talking about our guts, our body, the biome inside us, and are we possibly being used, right? Hijacked, similar to a parasite that lives in a brain his head, turns it into a zombie. Well, other than we benefit from instinct, so it's more symbiotic than acidic, but I still think it's very fascinating to think how viruses work, right? Viruses don't. It's like they're not considered living things, right? Because they don't use their own biology, their own cellular materials, right? They need to hijack that. So it kind of like weaves into panspermia. That's my message.
Yeah. So thanks for bringing me. I'm glad I got the stereo going. Bring me back on my tangent from my deeper tangents. But the concept there is the thought. So this reminded me of, let me get this out, of sheep and shepherds, right? And somebody once told me that the sheep have evolved. They've literally, like, we feel like we're in control of the sheep because we're a shepherd, and we're like, oh, we watch the flock and we put them out and they eat and we protect them from the wolves, and then they give us, we take their wool to make clothes and all that kind of stuff, and that's why we keep the sheep around. And somebody said, well, the sheep have also evolved to control us. It's like we're the ones, like they're the ones that are getting the benefit, and might say, oh, well, this is just a symbiosis, but maybe they have more and more wool because they've created it so that the humans will keep them safe and allow them to eat and and do all the things. So who's really in control there? It's it reminds me of like the Matrix, where I think it's the Matrix 2, where Neo is saying, well, these machines, we control this machine because we could destroy them, right? And whoever the president or one of the co-leaders of the foundation there was like, yes, but if we destroyed the machines, then how would we survive? Like, so we need them, but they need us. And isn't that the way the whole universe works? It's a constant yin and yang. There's a constant light and dark. There's a constant dichotomy that's always needed, and we just have to accept that. We have to, and we don't have to accept it. I like to accept it. That's just the way it is, whether we accept it or not. Let's put it that way.
I really love the philosophy that we are born into forgetfulness, that we have forgotten that we have forgotten, because it's all a stage, it's all a game. The universe is experiencing you, experiencing itself, but you have forgotten that it is you. And I feel innately that human beings on a collective scale are compelled to go on a journey of seeking. We feel that there is something more than what we're being taught. There's a mystery, there's a secret behind it all. And some people choose religion to fill in those empty gaps, sure. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like the mystical philosophy that it starts within you. All the answers, all the mysteries, all the knowledge and wisdom is already within you. You already possess everything. You go into that inner world and harmonize with the universe. It opens up to you too.
Yeah, and this reminded me of something else. Thank you for your comment there. It reminded me of what I was listening to when I was listening to Alan as I was shoveling a little while ago. He talked about, as a baby, when a baby is in a mother's womb, does it see itself as a separate thing, or does it just see itself as the mother or part of the mother? Or do we, when this always goes to the abortion thing, like, when is it considered a baby? Like, every time you try to define something by a line, it doesn't work, because there are no lines, there are no separateness, right? It's like, I've heard people say, oh, well, it's when conception happens. I'm like, okay, well, what happened? So if you're saying is the minute it's a conception happens and there's one cell with now where two cells have turned into one cell, that's now a person, right? Okay, well, what happens if that cell splits and you get twins? Did a person die? Did two people just come out of one person? Like, what happens then? It could also split, 2 or 3 or 4 divisions later and turn into 2 separate beings. So do we mourn the death of a person at that point? Right? Because there are no persons. It's a fake thing. It's a mask, right? And to the baby at the time, or the baby or the zygote or the fetus or whatever you want to call it, whatever name that we want to put on the thing that is everything, the concept of it being separate from the mother doesn't exist. It only exists once we start teaching it that it's separate, that we teach it it's different. It's getting all its food from the mother. It's everything's the same. And the idea, the concept of us, and this kind of goes into more of even the emergence. And I wanted to talk about, I'm trying to hold off until Super High joins me, because I want him to be a part of watching the clip that I'm going to show. But the emergence of consciousness, right? So, and the concept of being put on the earth, like being put into your body, or your consciousness emerge, like everything emerges. Like we're not put here anywhere. We grow. Like, the concept of growth is a different process. Like, when people talk about, like sometimes people think, like, oh, when they die, they're going to meet God, and God's going to tell them, and they can ask any question they want, and they'll find out, how did you make us? How did you make this mountain? How did you make these things? And it's the concept of God is like the potter, right? Like of he's taking clay and making something, right? And creating something new. But that's not how it works. We don't put things together to make us. We grow. The process of growth is a complete, it's a cycle that never ends, right? When is the acorn what's the actual instant that an acorn turns into a tree? Is there one? No. And when's the actual instant where the tree turns into an acorn? Right? So it's a constant moving and ebb and flow of form. And the forms that we see are not things. They're not nouns, they're verbs. It's treeing, it's acorning, it's growing, it's human being. It's just a verb. It's just what the universe is doing here and now. And what we're seeing is the illusion, the persona, the mask, where the real universe is in the green room, hanging out, talking, and saying, let's do a good performance today. And the concept of forgetting makes it fun, because if you think of I know I feel almost like I'm repeating myself each week, but if you think of the universe as something that is here, and when I say the universe, I mean like the multiverse. I'm one who believes that every black hole has a universe inside of it, and we are a universe inside of a black hole, and all that kind of stuff, right? That's all. Go watch episode 3. Can't believe we're on episode 17 already of this. But by the way, if anyone wants to watch any of the episodes, we have them all on YouTube. Philosophy Man 76. You can check them up in the lives, or you can check them on Spotify. I upload them all on Spotify under Cosmic Matters if you want to check out any of these past episodes that we've done. But I feel like I say it all the time, if the universe is conscious, right, and consciousness being an emergent property, right, like one neuron doesn't get you consciousness and 2 neurons don't get you consciousness, but after a certain, and by the way, in humans, I wouldn't even say it's consciousness. I would say we consider our consciousness our ability to remember. I would say memory is what we consider consciousness. Now, when we might say, well, that's not, we might say, well, it's bigger than just memory, because like I'm moving my fingers right now and I'm moving my mouth and these words are coming out, and so that's consciousness. I'm consciously saying these words, but am I really consciously saying that? I don't know where these words are coming from. How please explain to me how I'm thinking to make these words come out of my mouth. I don't know. I don't know how much I'm moving my lips. I don't know how to. I don't consciously know how much air I'm pushing out of my throat. I'm breathing in, and all these things. I don't know how to move every single neuron and muscle fiber. I don't consciously do all this. I just do it. And to me, the fact that we can do all these things, it's almost like us laughing at ourselves. It's like, how do you think you're doing all these things and you have no education in how to do them? How are you moving around, moving your, coming up with words, breathing, doing all this stuff, growing your hair, or lack of growing hair in my case, your fingernails, like doing all these metabolic things in your body? And you might say, well, I'm not consciously doing them. Well, what do you mean? What again? Then we turn to the question of what do you define as you? Okay, is it just, if you're not consciously doing it, are you not doing it? So you are doing it. So you're just saying your consciousness is when your attention is on it, and you're saying words and you're moving your fingers and you're doing these things because that's you're consciously doing it. But yet, even then, when you're consciously doing it, you don't know how you're consciously doing it. You don't know how to. If you had to tell me in words, how do you move a finger? You couldn't come up with the words because it's not a words thing. You just do it. And so we do all these things without thinking about them, which is one of the reasons I do this show. It's to bring it to relevance and to enjoy the joke, right? Enjoy the mystery of what's going on. And that we do all these things, and it doesn't, we don't think about it, and it doesn't really matter to us. But when you really think about it, how are you doing these things? How do you know how to do? How are you consciously doing these things? And then on top of that, saying, okay, well, I'm going to the job and I'm doing this stuff, and I'm living my life, and I'm, having all these things going on. And that's just the universe enjoying you fumbling around and figuring things out. It's just enjoyment, because the universe is going to be around forever. If you was a consciousness that was around forever, and when I say forever, again, think of what forever actually means. Like we say forever, and we say infinity, and we say these things, and because our minds don't dwell in that world, we've been around for, it's the year 2025. Now take that, and I can't put it in perspective. Let's just say the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years. That's kind of nuts. And the universe has been around for 13 point something 8 billion years. And that's not even touching upon what infinity is. Now take that and then just add 100 zeros onto the end of it. That's how long the actual universe, and then that's not even touching how long it's been around, right? So if you're going to be around for that long, why not try everything? If you have the power to create anything and you're going to be around forever, then the only enjoyment you're going to get is to forget that you know everything. The only way you're going to make the time pass is to forget and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like you want to be on Uranus. Uranus. We did a video about Uranus about, I think, a couple episodes back, where it's like tilted sideways and diamonds rain out of the sky because of the pressures. And you just want to do everything. You'd want to be a crazy Trump zealot. And on the same thing, you'd want to be a Trump hater, and you'd want to be LeBron James, and then you'd want to be a baby that dies after being alive for only 5 minutes and in extreme pain. You'd want to do everything, right? Because what else is there? And it's going to be okay because you're going to wake up, right? It's just you. It's just a form. And so when I say you, I mean you in the green room, not you as the persona. The play is going to end. And while we're in the play, you just enjoy it and you lose yourself in it. And it's not even important. It's not even important that it's going to end. Like, you can lose yourself in it. Like, you ever see people who are so lost into something? They're so passionate about it. They're so into it. And then you just want to be like, well, why is it so important to you? Like, to you, it doesn't make sense, but to them it does. And that's just the universe doing that. being passionate about that thing and seeing what it's like to act in that way. So anyway, feel like Soup's never going to join me, so we might have to. Oh, he's taking a test till 11. Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, then I'll hold off on this video a little bit longer then. So I had this so this whole thing about emergence, I came up with the topic because I was watching, because as I it's so funny, the more I listen to more and more, like, well, I haven't listened to more and more Alan. I've listened to a lot of Alan already, but now I'm spending more time in the science field, in the space and astrophysics corner of YouTube. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so perfect, because Brian Cox, if you don't know who Brian Cox is, you should look him up. He was a very famous in the astrophysics world, and he was on Star Talk. I was watching with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they started talking about emergence. And it's funny because now I'm getting the same thing I was getting from watching Alan and listening to Alan, is what is coming up. The same concepts are coming up in the search for meaning in black holes and in space, and so this is one of the reasons how I test my worldviews. I test my worldviews based upon a lot of different modalities. It's not like what I want to believe, it's what has the most evidence. It has the most evidence. So it's basically, let's just put it that way. so the reason I have the worldview, I keep the worldview that I have right now, is because it makes the most sense. It's the most congruent with the universe that we see. I don't see a universe where there's judgment. I don't see well, every time I say this, it goes haywire into morality and stuff. But I don't see a universe where or a world where the universe cares on if people die, if people live, if all these things happen. Now that, again, we're playing the human game, so we care about it and it's important, but the universe is going to kill everybody, right? Everyone's dying at some point, right? So it might not be all right for us to kill each other in the human game, but in the overall game of everything, everyone's dying, right? So doesn't mean you should go out and kill people. I mean, I got to make sure they make that clear out there, right? Don't do that. just talking about the universe in general, right? And it's not even. I have this. All right, I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to keep that road. Stay out of that lane. But anyway, so the point being is they were talking about emergence on here, and the first thing Brian Cox started talking about was consciousness. They were talking about, I'm going to play the video in a little bit, but Neil starts talking about how what emergence is to him is like, for example, by studying a duck, you can spend all your time studying the anatomy of a duck, understanding ducks and all this stuff. Well, let's say a goose in particular. But by studying a goose and knowing, everything about geese, not geese, about a goose, you wouldn't learn that as to why geese all fly together in a pack, right? And they're able to, or fly in the arrow shape, right? You wouldn't learn that. That's an emergent property of having many geese together. But one goose won't tell you that, right? Even if you knew every single thing about it, right? So studying one thing, like studying the atoms, studying quantum physics, right? When we've gotten down to this level of quantum physics and all these things that go on the quantum level, how they emerge into being us, into being things on our level that are completely different. It doesn't work in the quantum realm. Lots of stuff happens that's just weird on this level. In quantum mechanics, you can have a particle that is two particles on different opposite ends of the universe, like literally hundreds of billions of light years away, and they interact with each other. It's called quantum tunneling, right? Where one affects the other, and they're not even, how does that happen? Instantly, by the way, not like travel, light travel past it would take years and years, thousands of years for light to travel from one end of the universe to the other. But these particles are able to interact with each other. And this is the whole thing about black holes. Like, what happens if there's two entangled particles and one of the entangled particles goes over the event horizon of a black hole and the other one stays in the universe, right? What happens? Are we somehow affecting what's going on in the black hole through quantum tunneling? Like, can quantum tunneling work in we don't know. Obviously, this is one of the things that they're looking at. It's actually part of the Hawking radiation. I got a message coming. Trying to hold off until 11 till I play the video for Soup. But the concept before I play the message is that studying the small doesn't necessarily tell you about the big. Studying atoms doesn't necessarily tell you about the cells. If you study all the atoms, just because the particles won't tell you, doesn't give you cellular biology. And in studying cellular biology doesn't tell you about humans. It doesn't tell you everything about, or even anatomy, right? Like, you can look at the cells and how the cells interact with each other, but that wouldn't give you enough knowledge about the actual nervous system or the circulatory system. If you just studied one blood cell, you might know how the cell works. And then studying just those cells wouldn't give you an understanding of why humans do the things that they do. Wouldn't give you an idea, wouldn't answer, even if you knew everything about human DNA and our circulatory systems and studied all that stuff, wouldn't tell you anything about why the brain makes the decisions that it does. And then so the point being is that these emergent bigger properties that come out of it is what we're seeing. And yeah, I don't know what the point is. I don't know what the point is. Just making statements. All right, we got a message here. We got a comment.
Here's something very interesting. Although quantum entanglement does mean that two particles can instantaneously act as though they were connected, regardless of the distance, they do need to first become entangled.
Right.
So they were at one point one, or at least very, very close to being one. Right? That's my understanding of entanglement, quantum entanglement. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know enough to say if you're wrong or not. But I do know that what they're looking at when they look at the concept of the many worlds concept, where did I do a show on this? I don't know. If not, I will. On the idea of free will. Like, I don't believe free will exists in my opinion. And when I say that, it's not that I'm a determinist. What I believe is that the universe wants to learn everything, wants to see everything, wants to see every movie, wants to see, because it's going to be around forever, right? So why not see everything? And in that concept is then the reason why I don't believe free will happens, is because I feel like every time there is a choice, every time there is an option, let's just say, that, and by the way, this is backed by Schrodinger's cat and quantum physics as far as this goes. Let me not say it's backed. Let me say it is it's a hypothesis that has some merit to it, and no one has they haven't yet, because they can't really prove this. They can't make it a theory because we can't go into another I wouldn't even call it another universe. It was just another dimension. I guess it would be a dimension. But the point being is, so if you have a choice of door A and door B, and you walk through door A, it feels like you made a choice to go through A. But what actually happens is there's a whole nother universe splits out. I got to think of a different word, or another dimension. It starts, and one of you walks through door B, and one of you works through door A. Now, the person who walked through door B feels like they chose B, and the person who walks through A feels like they chose A, and a whole nother world opens up to each of those things, and you can't interact with the other world, but there's no free will because you're going through both doors, right? No matter what, you just happen to be the one who walked through the door A. And this, to put this, when I heard this whole concept, it was mind blowing, because I think of how many decisions does every single person make all the time? And then how many people are there? There's about 8.4 billion people on planet Earth. So there's this many universes opening up all over the place, where every single, and then and that just didn't seem right to me. But then I'm like, my mind doesn't infinity is enough room for all that in infinity. The universe doesn't have a limit to how many timelines that it can have. It can have as many as it wants. And why not experience everything? Why not experience what happens if I go through it? Why not experience if I tripped and fell today while I was when I was shoveling snow, and now I'm in the hospital? There's a person over there, and there's another person who's still asleep and didn't turn this. There's another me that decided I didn't want to do this today. There's another me where Muhammad jumped on as soon as the show started, and there's just all these possibilities. And why not find out what happened? If you're the universe, you're going to run forever. You have no limits to your space and time. So why not check them all out, right? And experience them all. So free will only exists if there's a choice. And if you're not making a choice, if every choice is going to occur, then you don't have free will. You have the illusion of free will. Anyway, I don't want to go through a whole free will topic. For those of you who come to the shows, we'll do a whole show on free will. But know thyself.
I agree. And I love the quantum physics aspect of this conversation, that you brought this up. Maybe this is a controversial comment, but I believe quantum physics, or at least the pursuit of quantum physics, is revealing with the universe trying to tell us something. The more we are able to look deeper into it or further into it, the more mysterious it gets. It's almost like the universe is trying to tell us, you're not meant to understand the enigma of what you are in. You are meant to understand the enigma of what you are. Knowing what we are in is not going to fill in satisfaction. It's not going to grant us satisfaction. But understanding, learning, awakening to what we are and our place in all of it, that is wholeness. That is true fulfillment.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that. Yeah, not what we are in, but who we are, because we are that thing. And isn't it like the example I mean, the analogy I would use is like someone writing a like a mystery novel, right? And they want you to figure it out. Like they don't want you to, they want to make it hard enough. Like if you ever seen like a good, I saw there was a new Knives Out movie on Netflix, right? And it's a good mystery. Like it's intriguing, it's fun, but you still want to see, like, can you figure it out? I'm sure the writers are like seeing like, hey, can I make it so I put enough details in here that you could figure it out if you really thought about it, but you're going to miss, but I got to make it as secretive as possible so that you kind of miss, that you could put it together. There's enough things that would make you feel, and that's what we see as a good mystery story. When we get to the end and we're like, oh my goodness, right, they did that. Oh my God, I forgot about the butler, and why is that exciting to us? Because we're a part of the universe. We're the consciousness of the universe who's doing the same thing to us. Like, hey, let's put this together, put that together. And you're not going to get it all. And I was listening to an Alan Watts thing where they talked about like the universe keeps getting like, at one point we didn't understand that there were galaxies. We thought like our galaxy was all there was. The word galaxy didn't even exist. They just thought, well, before that, we just thought it was just us. It was just Earth, and the stars were just painted lights on the sky, right, at nighttime. And then we had the sun and, what's that? Oh, my live stream was telling me I gotta. Good. All right. But that it was just Earth and the planets in the sky. That was it. And then we've discovered that there's more than that. It's actually, it could be the solar system. And then we just thought it was just okay. The universe was just everything out there. And then we discovered, like, oh wait, some of these stars that we're seeing out there are not stars. They're galaxies. They're whole systems of stars. And we realized that the Milky Way is, that we're seeing here is just us on the inside. We're like, wow, there's more. And now we're discovering, as we got the James Webb Telescope, we're discovering that there's even more. We're like, oh wait, some of these galaxies didn't form. They're too, based upon how we've seen galaxies form and how far away they are. It's not making sense. It's not fitting our model. And one of the things that Alan actually said is, like, look, the more we learn, the more mysteries there's going to be. It's just how it goes, right? Like, so the deeper we go, whether it's big or small, whether we go out in the universe or as we get smaller and smaller, we have the Large Hadron Collider, where we're finding out about the Higgs boson and all these different particles. But there's still more mysteries. There's always going to be more mysteries, because that's what the universe is about. And the further we see, the more darkness that's going to arrive, right? It's like the snake eating its own tail, because that's the fun. And I feel like if we found out too much, then a meteorite would hit our planet and just destroy us all, so we start all over again, as something else. Wow, we got 6 people in here. Thank you everyone for joining and listening to our show here on Sundays. I do this every Sunday, 10 to 12. I call it Cosmic Matters. I always say 10 to 12, but I usually end around 11:30, just so you know. We are waiting for Super Hyman to join us, so I'm going to play a little bit from, it's called, the video I'm going to play is called "Are We the Universe's Way of Knowing Itself?" with Brian Cox. All right. And it's a Star Talk. It's the latest Star Talk, actually not the latest. It came out December 9th. But this whole concept of emergence, I've been thinking about this and talking about consciousness and everything. And then it's funny to hear you tend to think that you're thinking in like a woo-woo, spirituality type of way. But now even the astrophysicists are talking about this type of thing. All right, Worm.
I agree with know thyself, even though I think the goal is.
Oop. What happened? Oh, I lost him. Oh, I lost. Oh, there we go.
To forget things.
All right, let's try that again. Sorry, I lost connection, it looked like, for a second there. All right, I think my internet went out. Yeah, because everything disconnected. All right, Worm, I'll play that message again. Hold on. Oop. There we go.
I agree with know thyself, even though I think that the goal is to know thyself, that ultimately knowing thyself would not be satisfying. Kind of weaves into what you were saying, Maddie, about needing to forget things in order to rediscover them. But I wanted to touch on this quantum entanglement biz, because I hear you talking about free will, right? You said you're not a determinist, right? I hear you. When we talk about things like quantum entanglement, there is the use of the word fate. It's not in the classical sense of like fate, like destiny, but it is interesting how that word is the word that's used. Those two particles now share a fate.
Yes. I don't know. Nothing really for me to say that. I'll just say yes. As far as play your other one.
It's probably why we enjoy things vicariously. Things like mirror neurology, empathy, how we so easily live vicariously simply by observing. Maybe it's the consequence of us all coming from the same origin. maybe we're all entangled. It sounds more romantic than it
is. Well, I think so. There's certain parts that I think it's biology and evolution. Like I think we have empathy for each other, mainly because empathy is something that we developed as humans because we needed each other to survive. I say this all the time. Humans kind of suck at surviving on our own. Like we're not very fast. We don't have, claws. We don't have, most of our teeth are flat, right? We're not particularly strong. We can't climb particularly well. But the reason we've survived is because of our ability to work together and our ability to create societies and protect each other. And so the idea of our moral code, I feel, came out of that, like lying, stealing, murder, these things. If we couldn't trust you, then you can't be a part of our tribe. And we need you to survive, and we need each other to survive. If you look at the Chinese character for human, it looks basically like two sticks leaning against each other, right? And hey, we got Soup is joining us. But if you look up the character, it looks like it's like a little flat kind of foot line, and then the two lines are up and they lean against each other, and that is the symbol for human. And the idea is that if you took one away, the other would fall, right? And so we need each other to stand up to exist. And so the sooner we learn that, the better we would do. The problem is that once we do exist, we try to we get tribal, and then we see people outside of our tribe as the enemy, and we always have to find an enemy for some reason. But that's a whole nother talk. All right, let me bring now. Oh my goodness! We got Mr. Super High Man joining us. How'd your test go?
Terrible,
huh?
That's
More studying needs to be done.
Lots more studying needs to be done.
So we've been talking about Emergence. We got a couple people. We got 6 people over in the stereo chat right now, and but as far as Emergence, I was saying, I wanted to say a couple of things. I'll catch you up with what I was talking about before. But it's snowing right now in New York, where I am. It's snowing a lot. We had before I got started with the show around 9. I already had like 4 or 5 inches on the ground, and it's been snowing it's continuing to snow. And if you ever want to feel like a New Yorker, put on some Timberland boots. That's how it works, man. As soon as I put those boots on, I was like, man, I feel like I'm from the Bronx, and I'm ready to go. So I went out shoveling, and I immediately remembered why I bought a snowblower.
What's your name?
I got tired real fast. But it gave me the memories of when I used to listen to Alan for like an hour or two while I would shovel snow back 5 or 6 years ago. And so I had some Alan on and was listening to some Watts. And so there you go. You're caught up. Shoveling snow, listening to Alan, have my boots on. And if I don't want to have a heart attack, I shouldn't be shoveling snow anymore. I do understand why that happens, because I was out of huffing and puffing after like literally 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, I had to shovel yesterday. It's not fun.
No,
it's never fun.
And I have the ability to not shovel, and I don't know why I felt like it's because I put the boots on. As soon as I put those boots on, man, I was like, oh yeah, strong. Nope. All right, so I want to share the point of the reason I had this. I came up with this topic. Where's my shared screen? I can't find it. Oh, there it is. So we'll share some thoughts, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So we're talking about emergence, and I've been talking about in past the paradox of the heap. Have you heard me talk about that before?
I don't know.
So the paradox of the heap the emergence basically is how something comes from the small, the conglomeration of the small makes something new, right? So, a bunch of atoms make a cell, a bunch of cells make a heart or a person or whatever, right? And so, but studying the small doesn't let you even really understand what a conglomeration of those things together would actually make, right? So I'll let Neil do the talking about it in a minute. But so in philosophy, there's something called there's a paradox, one of the Zeno's paradoxes, which is called the paradox of the heap, which is basically if you have a grain of sand, you do not have a heap of sand. And then if you add a grain of sand, Worm jumped off the stereo and is in the here, so you can see the video now. He said he likes your background. Soup likes to throw me off, but now I have like 4 pictures of myself now up here.
The ego is going crazy.
Yeah, it's just me, and it looks like being John Malkovich when he goes into his own head. But anyway, for those of you who get that, if you haven't seen Being John Malkovich, go watch that movie. It's a great movie. It's with John Cusack and the girl from Something About Mary. What's her name? Something About Mary. The girl who plays Mary.
Oh,
the blonde
Celine
hair.
Dion.
No. No, it's not Celine Dion. That's the singer. She was in Charlie's Angels.
Carmen Diaz.
Carmen Diaz. Yes. Please go check out that movie. It's a great movie.
Wait, was I right? I was just guessing.
No, Cameron Diaz. That's her name.
Okay.
Yeah, she's Being John Malkovich. It's a great movie. Back in I think it's from the 90s, maybe even the 80s. No, it's the 90s. So anyway, Emergence. I was saying something about Emergence. Can't remember. Why did I Being John Malkovich? Saw myself, saw my face. Then, all right, let's just play. Oh, the paradox of the heap. That's what I was talking about. So the paradox of the heap is 1 grain of sand does not constitute a heap. And if you add a grain of sand, so you have 2 grains of sand, you still do not have a heap of sand. But if you continue, so basically the logical, the syllogism is 1 grain of sand added will not create a heap. But eventually, if you keep adding 1 grain of sand, you will have a heap of sand. And so, but at what point do you consider it a heap of sand? Like, how does that, the heap concept is an emergent property. It doesn't exist on its own, but it exists when you have a conglomerate. But there is no one, like if I had a heap of sand, and I took 1 grain out, I wouldn't say, oh, now I don't have a heap of sand.
Right.
So that's the paradox. Like it comes from nowhere and not one particular grain of sand will make a heap. So it's called the paradox of the heap. Okay. So this is the paradox that we exist in everything. It's like 1 neuron doesn't make a brain. Doesn't give you consciousness, but you keep adding neurons and eventually you get a brain. You get consciousness, you get thought. And so that concept is something that we've talked about here. And but I caught this video of Star Talk, and they had Brian Cox on, and I said, okay, let's do that for the meeting. I'm calling this a meeting now.
I do love some Brian Cox.
All right. So let's play them. Tell me if you can hear when I play it.
That it would be one of many examples of emergence.
Yeah. So,
because
could you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. I think I got the sound thing down now, finally. It only took me 17 episodes.
I have a very limited list of what I know is emergent. One of them and correct me if I'm wrong, you can study a bird all you want and know everything about it, but you would not know from that a bunch of birds will flock together.
And in syncopation, change direction all at once.
Exactly. You don't get that from studying the physiology of the bird.
Yeah.
And that's an example. That's a fine example, is it?
Yeah, emergence. I mean, even.
Well, you know what? Before we go any further, what is emergence?
Well, at an even deeper level, you could say consciousness is an emergent property. That's probably the most famous one that people discuss.
Yeah.
Because it's a property of some atoms and molecules in a particular configuration. We can discuss, I mean, some people don't think that, but that's the scientific view, is that's what it is. And so, but also there's this idea that it's not that there's a more fundamental description, in a sense of a better description of this complex thing, as you said, like birds flocking. There are different levels of description that are appropriate in nature. So biology, you could try to say, well, if you knew all about particle physics and the theory of everything, then you could predict, a human being. But of course you can't. So in all science, there are different appropriate levels of description. Nuclear physics would be another one. You don't do nuclear physics, at least at the moment, by doing particle physics. So I suppose emergence is, to my mind, most simply the question of how does this complexity that we see in the world emerge or appear from the simple underlying laws.
And that is layered depending upon what you're observing in terms of biology or physics or the bird.
But in the end, would you say it's just all physics?
Well, no, I think I think the modern view is
I'm asking a physicist.
Of course,
yes and no. So yes, in the sense that the complexity that we see has an origin, of course, in the laws of nature that we understand. But scientifically speaking, the correct way of, the best way of being a biologist, trying to understand complex biological systems, is not to be a particle physicist. It's a completely different discipline. So
even if you are foundational to everything that's happening, it's pretty useless at the level of the biology.
The standard model of particle physics there's no point in trying to understand the brain by starting with a standard model of particle physics. You will get nowhere. And probably.
Yeah. So what we were talking about before is, and the fact that these guys were talking about this is what kind of made me say, I want to. This looks, by the way, this looks ridiculous when I put the video up like that.
I see all four on my screen as well.
Oh, do you see all four? So even Brian, and by the way, I love Brian Cox's accent. It's just great. But the concept again is what I was talking about earlier, is that studying one doesn't tell you about the other, but it's all the same. Like studying the penny doesn't. We were talking about a mosaic where you have like a bunch of pennies, and when you move back, it looks like a boat or it looks like a picture. But studying the one penny doesn't help you understand the boat. Doesn't help you. If you just took that one penny out and just started analyzing it, you would. And somebody said that's a boat. You'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like it doesn't give you any understanding of it. But the whole concept is why does that happen? Why does emergence happen? Why aren't we all? Why don't we have just an understanding of a bunch of us being a bunch of atoms? There was a story about I want to say it was a war general and he started to understand this whole concept that most of the atom is empty space. And he said, well, if most of the atom is empty space, 90% of it is empty space, and I'm made up of atoms, then that means 90% of me is empty space. And if the wall is also made up of atoms and 90% of that is empty space, I should be able to walk through the wall. And then he just walks and bangs his head against the wall.
I don't think it works like that.
Right. And he's like, so the concept of walls and heads are emergent properties of something. It's the concept of when somebody says to me, something can come from nothing. I'm like, well, everything comes from nothing. As far as I'm concerned, everything. The voice, the sound that you're hearing right now came out of empty space. it's coming through a transistor or whatever, but it's coming from empty space. It's coming from nothingness. There was no sound, and now there is sound. So you might say, well, it's coming from your mouth, but then even then,
That's what she said.
it came from nothing. That's why we need soup here. All right, let's. If you want me to stop, let me know at any point. The video. All right, let's go back.
Probably never will.
Gotcha. The idea of emergence, where complex patterns arise from simple parts working together, is science in action. Ironically,
Shut up.
News for years because
on this one topic.
Well, it starts with Kepler, because one of the things I like doing with live shows is developing graphics and sort of spending time working with people. So it starts on the Charles Bridge with a snowstorm, and I tell that story.
But just to be clear, this is with a video wall.
Well, yeah, by video, that's the other cool thing, because I get to, in the big shows, I believe the video wall we're going to have is 100 feet wide by 50 feet high. So it's just the biggest LED wall you can fit in an arena.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it starts with that, but pretty quickly we go into the snowflake and then journey inwards initially. So the modern understanding of the snowflake with the water molecule, but why is the water molecule with that particular angle? 109 and
108
degrees,
108 degrees.
108 degrees. So then you have the oxygen
Just to be
atom,
clear,
the hydrogen atom.
There's the angle between the two hydrogen atoms coming off the oxygen.
Okay.
Which is the origin of the symmetry of the snowflake, ultimately. Right. And then you go to protons, and we go into the proton. I mean, my PhD was
holy shit.
I heard of what? Snowflakes?
Yeah. So the snowflake is just representing the oxygen molecule as it freezes and separates from the hydrogen, from the hydrogen molecule.
Well, I think he was saying the shape. All snowflakes have the same, not the same pattern, but the same shape.
They have the same angle.
The same angle, right? Because that's the angle that the hydrogen and oxygen molecules are, because the hydrogen is on, the two hydrogens stay on one side of the oxygen.
Right. And they create the 180 degrees. So it is representing the water molecule. That's pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to look more into it. They say stuff sometimes and then just keep going as if we should know what the hell they just said. Like, oh, okay, let's just throw that out real quick. Everybody knows that about the angle of snowflakes and water molecules.
They do that a lot.
Broadly speaking, on the structure of the proton, I worked at a lab in Germany called DAISY, an accelerator.
I've seen
Hira.
DAISY has great graphical representations of physical phenomena.
Yeah.
DAISY
it's
collaboration.
A very famous lab, DAISY.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at the structure of the proton, really mapping the structure of the proton. So we're going to the proton and then into quarks and quarks. So a proton made most simply as two up quark, with two up quarks and a down quark, which as far as we can see are point-like things. They may well not be point-like, they probably aren't, but we don't have a powerful enough microscope. So we just see this point. But then there are all sorts of other things in the proton, gluons and strange quarks and anti-strange quarks and things like that. So it gets complicated. So we zoom into that. And then we go a bit more speculative and zoom into maybe what are the building blocks of quarks? Is it superstrings? Is it string theory or something like that? So there's an element of a journey inwards and then a journey outwards again. So the show works, particularly in the second half, actually physically with our intellectual journey. Because if you think about it, Kepler, you could say, I mean, you'll have comments on this. You could say that's the beginnings of modern science, around 1600.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this a near simultaneous invention of the telescope and the.
All right, I'm going to pause here because I want to move forward because this is an hour and a half, and obviously I can't go through the whole thing.
We could.
Yeah, we could. But there's football today, and I got teams in the. So we all have playoff
Man,
teams.
did you see I got first in 2 of my leagues?
Yeah, well, I heard about the one. I didn't know 2 of them.
Yeah.
Nice job. So I'm going to move forward to examples of emergence, which is at the 25-minute mark here.
Outside, and you
And
get
you
a
don't-
parabola.
Right.
You can also
that's a
do
very
like
specific
1.25
form
speed.
of a hyperbola.
Right.
And so hyperbola is just, it comes in and goes out and it never
Yeah,
moves
you're
back
not going to
around.
see it again.
Right.
I mean, actually, I suppose, actually thinking about it, probably it's in a bound orbit in the galaxy.
So
I don't think
It's
it's
orbiting
unnecessary.
something,
Yeah,
but
so
not
it
the
is-
sun.
yeah, it's not the sun.
right, right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's hyperbolic to the sun.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, not
Yeah.
to
And
something
to
else.
something
But
else.
give us more examples of emergence, just so we can get in the bathtub with you here.
The one that's always talked about that we mentioned is consciousness. I think, and it's
Okay.
becoming very topical because, of course, AI and the potential development of artificial general intelligence, we're not
Right.
there yet, but AGI, raises this question of what intelligence, what the experience of being human is.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are different, I think there are 2 categories of emergence people speak of. Actually, Sean Carroll, if you had him on the show, he's got
Yes, we
about,
have, yeah,
he's got
yeah.
about 5 in a recent paper. He's got loads of category 2A and 3B or whatever.
Okay.
But broadly speaking, people think of weak and strong emergence.
Okay.
So weak emergence is what I think virtually every scientist would, certainly a physicist would say consciousness is, which is very complicated, the most complicated emergent phenomena we know of in the universe, I would say. But it comes from the underlying laws. So you could model it with a sufficiently powerful computer. You could imagine modeling how the human brain works. Right?
Mhm.
I think most people would accept. There is also strong emergence, which is somehow the phenomena you see is not, you can't simulate it from the underlying laws. There's something else going on. Now, I would not subscribe to that. So I would say consciousness is interesting because it's weakly emergent. It emerges from this thing, the brain. How, we don't know.
What about the gas laws that we learn about in chemistry?
Oh, wait a second. So let's talk about that real quick. So would you say that there's a weak emergence? What's your opinion? A weak emergence or a strong emergence? Weak emergence meaning it's just a matter of understanding, but it can be figured out. Like if we had a supercomputer with super AI, it could figure it out. Or strong emergence where there's something else happening that makes consciousness happen.
I think that I don't have the tools, or we don't have the tools, to see that far out into the universe. I think that both could be possible, but the one that we have the most tools to measure is for a weaker.
Well, I think, but in the totality of it, they're saying if we did have the tools, so weak emergence is saying even if we had a supercomputer, if we had enough power and intellect to do it, we could do it. But strong emergence means of consciousness is that there's something else at play that, just having more compute is not going to solve the problem. There's an outside force or something that is beyond just doing the quantum mechanics or being able to figure out the brain patterns enough that something else is playing into that. I only ask you because I know you have a whole thought process as like our consciousness is someplace else. So that's kind of why I wanted to get your thought about that.
Well, yes and no. I like it. I like it as a thought experiment. It's not something that I think is fully exists just because I don't have tools to test it. But it's a fun thought experiment until we do have the tools to test it. Like Einstein. Like they didn't have the tools to test everything, and we've.
See, the funny thing is that what if consciousness was something, if it was strong emergence, just to use their terms,
yeah,
and it was an outside thing that, something that just more compute and more understanding,
yeah,
wouldn't be enough. I think we would never come up with that answer until we actually knew if it was, unless it was proved to be weak. We could always just say we need better tools to understand it. So even if we're 100 years in the future and we got better AI and better 1,000 years in the future, 10,000 years in the future, if we still didn't understand what consciousness is, we could just say, well, we just need better tools of magnification. We could always push it out if we don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't even know there was such a thing as weak and strong. All right, all right, we're gonna go back. I really wanted to get your opinion there. Yes, this is the button I want to touch. There we go.
Class.
Yeah.
That you can't derive from just looking at the movement of gas particles as individual. It's a macroscopic understanding of what's going on, highly accurate and very predictive, but I don't think you can derive them from just looking at how a molecule moves in a gas.
Well, you could in principle. That's the point. In principle,
Okay.
if you had a very, very,
if you could model a bajillion particles,
right, yeah.
Okay.
If you could keep track of every single particle and then track them, then you would be able to then, in principle, determine.
Yeah, which actually goes back to what we talked about earlier, though. It'd be pointless. As you said, gases, you can understand them with pressure and volume and temperature.
Right, macroscopic objects,
So there's no
macroscopic
point.
entities,
Why would you bother? Having a supercomputer track the motion of all and the momenta of all these things, it'd be a silly thing to do.
And does it matter if there's okay, I don't know how to say this properly, so I'll just ask. Does it matter if there are levels of emergence? Because when you say consciousness, animals are also conscious. There are dogs, they are clearly conscious. Chimpanzees, I'm sorry, let's go down to monkeys. A capuchin helper monkey is definitely conscious, but it is not conscious on what we would consider the level that we are. We don't know if it's pondering its existence and all that kind of stuff. Whales are definitely dolphins. So, but does it matter that there are levels of
You're just going to keep naming animals?
I mean, they would just be one of those remarkable properties of atoms. Was it, again, to quote Carl Sagan again, didn't he say that a physicist is a hydrogen atom's way of learning about hydrogen atoms? Which is a great definition.
I like that.
It's the electron's way of learning about itself.
Yeah, it's like
the true God, the electron.
Which is what we were talking about. Well, that's a George Carlin thing where he's like he calls everything the big electron. Whoa. But I like how Chuck just keeps naming animals, like with dolphin, monkeys, dogs. Yeah, we get it, Chuck. But so Brian's explanation there is that those are different. Well, he says first there's different. Well, Chuck is there different levels or of consciousness. I don't. Is it different? We have such a preference to ourselves. We just consider humans so much better than anything else. We're in our egos, but there's no it's not like a lower level. It's just different. So it's all consciousness. It's all the same. It's on a different level. It's not a higher level. It's just a different type of consciousness, is what I would say to that question.
What type of consciousness is it?
I would just think there's no type. Well, there's no. Let me see. Let me put this into words.
Name it.
Consciousness is just a interaction between a form of the universe and the universe itself. Right? Okay. So thinking of like a wave of the ocean, right? The wave, depending on the size and how it is, it interprets the ocean in a certain way. Humans are just interpreting or are conscious, but we're just a form. We just have a consciousness that's different than and interact with the universe differently than a pig to do the Chuck thing, or a whale, or a dolphin, or a giraffe, or a rock, because I have the belief that rocks are conscious. It's just yeah, I do. Just a different form of consciousness. It's just a different way of interacting with the universe taking a form. Because again, all of us are on this rock. The rocks turned into us, in my opinion. Or like or maybe the microbes. I am now I used to be an abiogenesis guy, and now I think I've changed to the panspermia guy since the since the discovery of that asteroid with all the DNA.
Yeah, I'm here for panspermia.
I think it's I'm definitely down for panspermia now.
I've been about the pansperm for a hot second now. So
yeah,
welcome.
I was 100% abiogenesis, but
man.
now with the but then exactly where did it doesn't matter. I'm not, that's a question I can't
You know
answer.
where it started?
Yeah, where? God. Yeah. Yes. Correct. We got a let me see if you can hear the messages from stereo. I'm going to try to play them.
Oh, you're on stereo?
Yeah.
Fascinating that you mentioned that. It mentions also in the book, The Law of One. If you have not given that a read, it's well worth the time.
The Law of One.
Anyway, it says in The Law of One, consciousness is born in the rock. It evolves in nature in plants and animals, and it awakens within the human being. Something to ponder.
Yeah, that's I'm just writing that down. The Law of One. I'm trying to make a note to write down things that people recommend to me. Yeah, there's a skit. If you want to look it up, there's a video on YouTube where the South Park guys are very the creators of South Park are big Alan Watts fans, and they took a couple of his talks and made little short videos of them. And one of the ones that they make is he talks about the Earth peopling and how people came upon the Earth. But he's like, if an alien ship came to the Earth, 100 million years ago, it would just say, oh, there's nothing there. It's a bunch of rocks. Right. But then they come back, 100 million years later, like, oh, the rocks are peopling. They're alive. They've come to life. They've turned into people. Just like a tree is appling, the Earth is peopling. So yeah, so it's a cute video, but it gives you, oh, there you go. You got another visitor on stereo. Did you leave a message too? You want me to play your message?
When the Earth people, do they people a lot, or do they people a little bit?
They people in the small parts of land. On, I actually saw a video, not a video. It was just like a picture, or maybe it was a video of like where people, like, we see ourselves as it's so important, and like, oh, we're going to use up all the resources of Earth, and then it was like showing like where people are on Earth, like all eight of us. And it's like nowhere. It's like just little tiny, like it was just showing us this graphs, like it showed the whole Earth, and then like population density, and it's like we're like nothing. We're like so tiny.
Yeah, physically, yeah, but the amount of area on the Earth that we affect is vast.
And even then, there's still so much more. Like we haven't explored 90% of the ocean, and the ocean's 2/3 of the Earth.
Hey, we got some ocean to destroy. We gotta get that on there.
I mean, we're worried about the what is that? The plastic? What is it? The plastic island or the garbage bar?
Oh, garbage! Garbage Island is terrifying.
But with Garbage Island, you see what's happening now. There's new forms of like they found all these different species that now have evolved to live there, and that's like their home, and they now can digest plastic, and and all this stuff, right? Because it's like, all right, well, garbage is
They can
there.
digest plastic.
Yeah, it's a
Oh
there's a
man, we got
bacteria
things that
now
can
that
eat plastic.
yeah.
That's terrifying and awesome at the same time. Because imagine if they evolved to fly and then they come to land and they just start eating all of our plastic. They would eat our clothes. They would eat our glasses.
What do you
they
know
would
is
eat
if they
everything.
would. Well, that's the old. What was the old George Carlin thing where he's like, people. Maybe that plastic was the reason that we came to Earth. Earth wanted plastic for itself. Didn't know how to make it, so it created us. It could be the answer to our age-old question: why are we here? Plastic, assholes.
Could you imagine if there was like a swarm of these things came out of the ocean and it just wiped across the entire planet in like a week and ate all the plastic? There'd be no cell phones, no computers, no cars, nothing.
That'd be a
Everything would be
great
destroyed.
I
Huh?
see a sci-fi movie.
That's what I'm
That-
saying. Like
that's-
that'd be a great sci-fi movie.
Yeah. And it comes because we created these things out there, this garbage barge out there. And then there's some scientists that tell us this is coming and no one believes them. We've got, and it comes in a Sharknado or something like that. All right, let's go. I'll go back to the video. We only got a couple more minutes left. We'll keep going here. A little bit more of Emergence. I'm probably have to do a part 2 of this. Play.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
I hadn't heard it at that level. I heard humans are a way for the universe to know itself.
That's also great.
Yeah.
I've heard you say
That's
that.
a little higher up than
Yeah,
hydrogen atoms.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. That's another great quote.
That's another example. In cosmology, about 3 or 4 minutes after the Big Bang, you have 75% hydrogen, 25% helium, a bit of lithium, maybe not much else, tiny bit of beryllium, I think, and that's it. And then you go. So there's also that story which I tell in the show of how you go from that, which we have a very good picture of. Let's say 10 minutes after the Big Bang, how you then go to this 13.8 billion years later, which is stars and planets, yes, but us as well. It's a remarkable story, but it's understood in
story ever
broad
told.
sweep.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, that is not true.
And-
Yeah. We all know that the greatest story ever told is Jesus.
Okay.
Please stop.
Well, he's an emergent thing too.
So true. I mean, so true.
Tell me about the wetness of water. What should we be thinking about that?
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's another good example of something that's
Here we
appropriate to
go.
talk about liquids and they're wet. And what does it mean to be wet? Yeah, but actually at the lower level, it's just a load of molecules,
Right.
oxygen and hydrogen atoms, which don't have the property wet. So again, it would be another example. So I mean, really, you can read by
you
the
can't-
literature.
You can't point to a molecule and say that's wet.
No.
But an ensemble of them, then you can measure it and see, okay,
Yeah.
Is it wet? Is it not?
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So, basically, in a sense, almost everything's emergent, right? That we,
Yes.
Clearly, we observe the universe at our particular scale, so sizes of things that we can see, and we're a particular size.
Right.
And so, I suppose you could argue that everything that we understand and perceive as human beings is emergent.
That's what I'm
But is it
arguing.
really? Because doesn't emergence have to have some special characteristics that otherwise would not be if you just did the same thing over and over again? For instance, the noise that happens after the cellular division of a sperm and an egg coming together, that starts a certain kind of noise that biologists don't know what, but they know that split, 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 split. And then that keeps going until there's a person, and then none of those people are the same. None of them. So like that to me is truly emergent. Whereas when you talk about water, like that is the connection of these, this hydrogen, this oxygen. And I don't care. You just keep connecting them that way. And guess what? You're always going to get that. You're always going to get water. So is that truly emergent?
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, so you're saying in some cases it's a precisely repeatable thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas in sperm and egg, you get billions of different people.
Absolutely. And so the true nature of the emergence is in the uniqueness of those separating characteristics, as opposed to something that is just repeatable.
Doesn't it come down to just how many variables you're working with?
Well, yeah, it's a really beautiful way of thinking about it. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but
I made Brian Cox
I
think
like that.
differently.
I'd be proud of that too.
And
Go
you,
ahead.
and you
That's
could
dope.
say, as Neil was just about to say, you could say, well, it's just the number of
Number of
variables you have to
variables.
keep track of.
Right.
Right.
I think you're right. There is something that feels very different between just wetness, as an example, a liquid.
Right.
That's an emergent behavior. But you're right that when you get to life, I mean, life is surely the most remarkable example of that. And actually, some of the work that we see, I was listening to some. There's a paper just been published.
Okay, now that I'm thinking about what he just said, the difference is with emergence of wetness from water, you have the same molecules in every instance. So of course you're going to get the same phenomena of emergence. When you're talking about a sperm and an egg, you have trillion different molecules of DNA matches and pairs that are emerging to something else. So if you match the same DNA every single time, then you would get an emergence of the same person.
Right.
So that's the difference. I figured it out for Brian Cox.
You figured it out for Brian Cox.
Yeah,
I love that.
He couldn't come up with the answer fast enough. All right, we got a message from Stereo. Oop.
Just a reminder, you can see this video right now on Maggie's YouTube.
Oh yes,
In the profile.
Thank you, Worm. And then you can also see it on Spotify if you want to rewatch the whole thing. Under Cosmic Matters. Cosmic Matters is the name of the podcast. By the way, it's kind of funny because you weren't here when I talked about water. I literally said that exact same thing about water. I was talking about how I drive my nephews nuts every Thanksgiving, where we have a whole debate on if you're under the water, if you're completely submerged in water, are you actually wet? What do you think?
If you're completely submerged in water,
it always causes a big art. I have videos of them screaming at each other.
any of your individual cells that you represent as yourself that are fully surrounded by H2O particles are wet.
Fully surrounded?
Mhm.
I mean, if you're going down to the atomic level, a particle level, a particle by itself of H2O, a molecule of itself of H2O isn't wet in itself.
But if your hand is in water,
Yeah.
then the top layers of molecules that are you will have water under them, but their magnetic bonds will keep them connected to you. And because those bonds keep them connected to you, they're still surrounded by water. That is the sensation of wetness. That is what wet is.
But you don't have, when you say a sensation of wet, if the entirety of the thing, the object, whatever it is, the whole person or just the hand or whatever it is, if it's completely surrounded, it doesn't give this. It's like when I see something that's wet, it looks different. It feels different as opposed to when it's completely submerged in water. Like,
Yeah.
are fish wet when they're underwater? I don't know. By the way, it's a meaningless question. I do it to cause arguments, and I'm not. It's no point. There's no answer.
I mean, unless you're in zero humidity, technically you're wet all the time.
Right. Well, at what level do you need? How many molecules then do you need to be considered wet?
100% humidity.
100%. So 99.
Yep.
Anyway, It's a hole. I gotcha. All right, let's I'll play a little bit more, and then we'll wrap this one up, and then we'll do the after show. We could chat for a minute or two before we gotta go watch football.
Published, I've forgotten the name. It's from a Google research group about essentially seeing replicators, which is what we're talking about here, living things emerge, that behavior emerge just from random code. So it's a very beautiful paper. I wish I could remember the name. Maybe on the strap line here when we do this thing.
You mean in human written code?
Yeah. So you just do a very basic computing language, and essentially the concept of a Turing machine, which now I'd have to explain. But this idea that you can a computer is essentially just a tape with like characters on it, or you could have just ones and zeros on it, and something that goes along and can change those zeros into ones and ones into zeros. It can read and write on the tape, and a few other properties. And Alan Turing back in the 1930s wrote a very famous paper which introduced the concept of a universal Turing machine. So all computers are equivalent to each other, essentially. And so, but there's some work been done on seeing how you can just start with no coding, really, just randomness and a couple of rules for computing, and you leave it, and over time you essentially get code written that can replicate. So you get coding sequences that can copy themselves, which is what you need.
There's an economic counterpart to this. Okay, so you can go to the street corner and say, I need milk, and there's milk there. I need eggs. Eggs are there, and they'll sell you the eggs. Okay, you didn't set up the shop. You didn't do anything. It's just there for you. And you can say, there must be some cosmic law that is serving my needs here and now. This must be some magic force. And then you realize it is very simple economic forces operating.
Right.
Okay. Buy it, sell it for more. Okay.
Right. The laws of supply, demand, and profit.
Exactly. And get a product someone wants. Okay. That's it. Everything else falls into place. So that would be not very many variables that lead to high complexity down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. And the complexity emerges, to use that word, from really some very simple laws.
That's really cool, actually.
Think about it. Yeah, because I want to get rich,
right?
And so I want to find something you want. I'm going to sell it to you,
right?
And I'm going to sell it at a profit so I can get rich.
Yeah,
and an entire economy unfolds out of that.
And that emerges out of this simple transaction. One person thinks, "Oh, it's there for me," and the other person is like, "Oh, I have to do that so that I can profit from that."
Yeah, it depends how big your ego is to think the whole world is configured for you.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm in therapy for that.
All right, I think that's a good spot there. Actually, I didn't even think about it in an economic I haven't watched this whole thing myself. I literally watched like the very first 10 minutes, and then I was like, oh, Emergence, and I was thinking about it, and that's why we came to it. Maybe we'll do another part 2 of Emergence as far as that goes. Hey, Midwest, good to see you there.
Midwest Atheist is in here.
Yeah. Yep. So that's going to be it for Cosmic Matters. We're here every Sunday from 10 to 12. I like this topic. It all kind of goes together. And it's funny, I was going to tell you, I was because I was out shoveling and listening to Alan, I almost changed the topic 3 times. I'm like, okay, I always think I'm going to run out of stuff to say because I feel like I'm saying the same thing. And then I listen to some Alan and I'm like, oh, here's a whole nother thing we could chat about. But to kind of sum up the podcast today is we are literally the universe learning about itself, and we just enjoy the journey, and that's
the ride.
That's the whole point. So the funny thing is even if we learned everything, we already know everything. We already know all of this stuff, and we're just learning it about ourselves. And the mystery is what makes it fun. And then we'll forget it and start all over again. When we see these properties of the universe, we see in ourselves. We love seeing somebody I can't say we all do, but I love, we all love seeing our children or seeing somebody learn something for the first time. We're like, when we see that light pop on and we're like, ooh, look, they got it, and we get a joy of teaching. We get a joy of teaching somebody something. And then, again, think of the universe teaching us, learning something, figuring something out, and constantly giving us more and harder puzzles to figure out, and watching us do it and struggle and try to figure it out in the whole thing. I'm going to do a whole episode on our identity coming from our problems, and how we identify the problems that we decide to solve are who we identify as. If you identify as a mother, it's just because you're trying to solve the problems of raising a child. If you identify as a doctor, you have medical problems. Teacher has different problems, but it's all about problems. It's all about overcoming challenges, overcoming problems, and that's what's going on. And I'll flesh that out a little bit more for a different episode. But yeah. In the meantime, I appreciate you jumping on for a little bit and being here for our Sunday
Emergence.
Our good Emergence talk. Again, check us out. I'll be posting this up. Actually, I'm behind 2 episodes on Spotify, so I'll post the last 2 episodes up, and then this one will be up. I'll put it up on Thursday. For all you that were here the entire time, or even a part of the time, I thank you for being here. Worm, Know Thyself. Did you change your Know Thyself? Changed his avatar while we were sitting here. I appreciate the comments that came through. Please like and subscribe if you can on the YouTube or on TikTok. TikTok, for some reason, I don't even think I'm live on TikTok right now. It's up, but whatever. Anyway, for those of you in fantasy football, good luck in the playoffs today.
Oh yeah, game's getting ready to start. Take your emergency. Make sure you get your immune system up.
And from all of us here to all of you there, thanks for joining Cosmic Matters. Remember, all of you matter to me. Is that good enough? No, I don't like it. I'll figure out a better one. I got to find a better sign off. All of us matter. And that's it. I'll see you all.
Point to the I behind you and go, I matter, and then point to them and say, you matter.
Oh,
there you go. That's it. All right. See you later.
See you all.